Let us go and make our visit. In the room, the women. My sister was taking guitar lessons from my father. I literally got jealous. And so I decided, well, I can do that too. And I was probably about 16 at the time, maybe a little younger, and I started playing guitar. My dad showed me a bunch of stuff. He's a great musician. He plays accordion and a bunch of other things. The first chords I learned were basically just placing my finger on the top two strings of the guitar and doing this. That kind of thing. And so basically, there's not much you can do with this. After a while, it gets pretty monotonous. So you know, I started, my dad was very supportive because he was a musician. My mom, I'm not sure my mom really understood it. You know, she wanted me to be something else, a dentist or something. And, but my dad was a musician, so he got it. And that, I think, was a big part of it. He was a big influence on me. Just like I think I was a big influence on my son, Anthony, who has an entire music industry he's created called Make Weird Music. Of course, it wasn't just my father, it was my uncle, A. Ray DeVito. We called him Tutto. I don't know why, but that's his nickname. And he wrote a song called Softly As I Leave You, which became a big hit for Frank Sinatra. My grandfather, also Anthony Garone, or Tony Garone, he played guitar and banjo in many, many bands. So the music has been in my family, and it's something that's in your blood, and you can't get it out. You know, you have to do it. And the first song I wrote was called Thanatopsis. Thanatopsis is a Greek word that means it's a study on death. And you know, when you're young, you start thinking about this stuff. Of course, you're supposed to do that when you're old, but I was young and I was thinking about these things. And I'll play a little bit of that, you know, to give you an idea of what it was about. Did you ever hear something and thought it made sense, but you thought again that you've heard enough garbage and you've been taught to live by society's rules? Well, have you ever thought of living a billion years? Well, my friend, follow me. I won't steer you wrong, and I think you'll see you're better off dead than alive. And so it goes, and so it goes. And that was the basic idea of the song, was looking at our society and how we perceive our leaving, our death, you know, moving on to the next level of consciousness. Or is it fast forward to when I was an older teenager, probably 18 or so, I came across this band called Heresy, and I met my future excellent, most best friend and songwriter, Scott Harris. We're still together today, and we actually have released several albums. The latest one we did was called The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. We took T.S. Eliot's poem and put it to music, and of course, which segues nicely into the books that are behind me, because the music is strictly a vehicle for me to express these. If I read a great book or I hear a great story like the Epic of Gilgamesh or Moby Dick, any of these wonderful stories, I get inspired, and music is my way of retelling the story in a different way so that people can gain a new perspective. They may go back and read the book, or Moby Dick. They'll go back and read Moby Dick, and they may find things in those stories that come to light. You know, maybe they read it in high school or college and they hated it, and when you hear it put to music, it gives you a different perspective. Searching for the soul of man, the deeper we look. And I'm not sure which is more important, the music or the books. And it's this balance that I go through in my life, you know. But certainly, the inspiration doesn't come from the music; it comes from the books and the stories. I will use the example of the poem by T.S. Eliot, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. When I read that poem, I heard melodies in my head. It was just so automatic. I had no problem with writing music to that. So in most cases, it is the poetry or the story, and then the music comes after that. Let us go then, you and I, when the out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels, of sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michaelangelo. When I read that poem, I heard melodies in my head. It was just so automatic, and I had no problem with writing music to that. So in most cases, it is the poetry or the story, and then the music comes after that. In some cases, though, I have to say, I will come up with an idea. For my own material, I have several solo albums on iTunes and all that stuff, but also with Heresy, come up with a musical idea, and then I will take that and say, oh, it kind of fits here, if I'm reading the story or if I'm coming with some lyrics, and then that's how some of it forms. When I'm writing with Scott, he comes up with a lot of the more complex musical ideas because he's a real musician. I'm just a songwriter guy. I come up with very simple things, and he constructs them into more purposeful, meaningful, and interesting songs. Many years ago, there was a movie called Contact that came out. It was based on a book by Carl Sagan, and it deals with the contrast between science and religion and how that played out. Two people who were, one was a scientist, Jodie Foster, the other was a religious person, Matthew McConaughey, I think that's how you say his name, but anyway. These two people, and they're meeting, and the circumstances under which they're placed, and how their experiences change their perspective. Jodie Foster has this experience that she begins to understand what people of faith have, and Matthew McConaughey has an experience and understands what people of science have. Midnight Blue. So this song is about those two forces and how they influence me in my life. I think it expressed the awe and the wonder of this incredible universe we live in. Midnight Blue, it's up to you, it's true. In fact, there's a wonderful speech that Jodie Foster makes at the end of the movie that always makes me cry, because she talks about she was given something that was beautiful and incredible, and she just wants to tell the world about it. No one believes her, but she had this experience that she can't explain. It is beyond her rationality as a scientist. So she had that experience. Call it a revelation, an epiphany, a catharsis, something that happened to her. And out of this experience, she gained this insight into the spiritual nature of this world. This song kind of touches on that. There's a line in there, you taught me the arrow's way. Her name in the film is Arrowway. So you taught me the arrow's way. The universe teaches us things, I believe. And we go through life thinking that some people may think, well, it's just all random. None of this is meaning. But I think there is meaning to it. And this song kind of touches on that. so far in the faraway. Musically, the idea, I came up with this, you know, what I thought was a neat little riff, this kind of this repetitive piece, and the melody just kind of fell into it, you know. Midnight blue, all for you, it's true, and, you know, and it just kind of fell into place. And then I needed a bridge, and so I was trying to come up with something, and I was thinking about how the experience that you have sometimes removes the fallacies of what you believe to be truths in your lives, but they're really fallacies, and that experience removes those fallacies and places the truth before you, and then you recognize, oh my God, you know, I was so wrong, you know, I was just in a different place. I didn't understand, you know, but now I understand. Now I see the light. It's up to you, it's true, to show me the light. The universe, Midnight Blue is the universe. It's teaching you these things. You come to a certain point in your life where you expect the universe to teach you these things, but you don't want to do that either. You know, you want to be self-sufficient, but understand the messages that come along with that self-sufficiency. So the bridge, I stayed with that first chord. You took all the lies away. That melody, I stayed with it, adding a minor seventh. That minor seventh chord, B minor 7, which I think was an interesting thing because the first part of it is all major, and so I wanted to give it a little tension, so I added that minor chord, and then the song really just flowed from there. Again, it's about so many pieces of that film, but I think the bigger part of it is I'm having this experience. It's changing me, but I'm unable to change. It's so hard for me to change, and it happens to all of us. But we have to change. It's the only way we can grow. The universe gently nudging us, tapping us on the shoulder and saying, this is what's next, or this is where you need to be. And you're not there, you know, so you need to be there. So don't fight the change, go with the change. And that's, I think, the crux of the lyrics in this particular song. Thunderous applause. Midnight blue, a song for you.